All right, let's get right into it. Just when you think we've figured out ancient Egypt, that every story has been told, well, the desert proves us wrong again. It seems like the sands are far from finished telling their tales, and a story over 100 years in the making just got a huge new chapter. So here's the big question, right? After more than a century since the last really big royal discovery, what on earth could possibly have been hiding out there all this time? Get this. It's the lost tomb of a pharaoh who is almost forgotten to history. And we're not just talking about any ruler. This is someone from Egypt's most powerful and glamorous era, the 18th dynasty, whose final resting place was a total mystery, until right now. But look, to really get why this discovery is such a massive deal, we gotta go back and understand the ancient Egyptian mindset. Why pour so much effort, so much insane wealth into these tombs? Well, it's because they weren't just graves, not even close. You see, for the ancient Egyptians, death wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a really dangerous journey to the afterlife. A tomb was, well, it was like a high-tech vessel. Basically, a machine for eternity, designed from the ground up to protect the body so the soul could make it through the underworld and live forever. And every single tiny detail inside that machine had a job to do, especially the colors. To them, color was basically magic. Gold wasn't just shiny decoration. It was literally the flesh of the gods, something eternal. And green? That wasn't just a paint color. It was the promise of rebirth, the color of Osiris, the god of the underworld. Every hue was like a magical ingredient in the recipe for immortality. And this whole journey was their central obsession. I mean, the art on the walls, the spells from the Book of the Dead, the little amulets. None of it was just for looks. It was all a sacred toolkit, like a divine insurance policy to make sure you could survive all the dangers waiting for you in the underworld. Of course, you absolutely cannot talk about Egyptian tombs without talking about the one discovery that set the gold standard for everything that came after, the one that just completely captured the world's imagination. Picture this. It's November 1922. The archaeologist Howard Carter makes a tiny hole in a sealed-up doorway. His sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, is standing behind him, anxiously asking, "Can you see anything?" And Carter, holding up a candle, can barely get the words out. Yes, wonderful things. So what did wonderful things actually turn out to be? We're talking more than 5,000 individual artifacts. An unbelievable treasure trove all crammed into this tiny, tiny space. I mean, it was the first totally intact royal tomb ever found in modern times. Inside was the whole shebang, that iconic solid gold mask, nested coffins, gilded furniture, chariots, statues, weapons, an entire pharaoh's life and afterlife, all packed up and ready to go. It was a discovery that just changed Egyptology forever, literally overnight. But here's the real kicker. For all of this mind-blowing wealth, King Tut was actually a pretty minor king. He died when he was about 18, and his tomb was small, probably put together in a real hurry. So you have to ask yourself, if this is what a minor king got, can you even imagine what the tombs of the great pharaohs, like Ramses the Great, must have looked like before the looters got to them? But the discovery of Tut's tomb didn't just unleash priceless treasures. Oh no, it also unleashed a dark, terrifying legend that completely swept the globe. So, just a few months after they opened the tomb, Lord Carnarvon died from an infected mosquito bite. And the newspapers went absolutely wild. Was it some kind of supernatural revenge for waking the boy king? And just like that, the legend of the pharaoh's curse was born. So on one hand, you've got this spooky legend of an ancient, powerful curse. But on the other hand, you've got science. And science offers a much more likely explanation. And honestly, it's maybe even a little scarier. Everybody, meet Aspergillus flavus. It's a nasty, toxic fungus that just loves to grow on decaying stuff, like, say, all the food offerings that were sealed inside a tomb for 3,000 years. The second that tomb was unsealed, microscopic spores would have filled the air, and if you breathe them in, they can cause a fatal lung infection. So the curse probably wasn't magic, it was microbiology. Which brings us all the way back to today. Now that we understand why these tombs were so important and the incredible scale of King Tut's find, we can really appreciate just how significant this new announcement is, an announcement that broke a century of silence. Over 100 years. Think about that. That's the gap between these two huge discoveries. Since Howard Carter found Tut's tomb back in 1922, not a single new royal pharaoh's tomb had been found. Most people thought the Valley of the Kings had given up all its secrets. Well, turns out they were wrong. So what did they actually find? Well, all the evidence points to the long-lost tomb of Thutmose II, another pharaoh from that same powerful 18th dynasty as Tut. The proof came from pieces of alabaster jars that had his royal name on them. Now, the tomb itself was empty and really badly damaged. It looks like a huge flash flood scoured it clean thousands of years ago. But for archaeologists, even an empty tomb tells a story. Its location alone raises new questions about their burial customs. It tells them about ancient geology, quarrying techniques, and the history of the sacred place. But here's where the story gets another really cool twist. While this is his original long-lost tomb, his actual mummy was already found safe and sound. You see, ancient priests, in a desperate attempt to protect the royals from tomb robbers, gathered up dozens of pharaohs and reburied them all in one secret hiding place. And Thutmose II's body was found in that secret cache way back in 1881. So for more than 100 years, we've had the king, but we didn't know where his original home was. Finding this tomb finally reunites the two and completes a huge piece of this pharaoh's puzzle. So, a mystery that's a century old is finally solved. But it just proves that Egypt is still a land of secrets. We now know that only about 1% of what's still under the sands has actually been discovered. 1%. This incredible find is just a reminder that the next wonderful thing could be uncovered with the very next sweep of an archaeologist's brush. Which leaves us with just one question: what will the sands reveal next?